and welcome to aUniversity. I'm Piotr Urbanski, Associate Director of Marketing Science here at Ayzenberg, and today we're going to introduce applications of behavior science to marketing. After this short course, you'll be able to identify heuristics and cognitive biases. You'll also know about how different types of priming work and how information works in marketing. Ultimately, the goal is for you to harness the power of heuristics and cognitive biases in your own work. This course is great for analysts and data scientists working on identifying actionable insights and causes of their data. This course is also great for strategists and creatives hoping to spark a new idea or ground their concept in science of human behavior. Let's review some concepts. Behavior science is the scientific study of decision processes and how interactions between people influences those. The goal of behavior science is to explain the how and the why we observe certain behaviors and interactions. The discipline itself is broadly interdisciplinary. Behavior scientists borrow from whatever specialized field necessary to solve problems and to answer questions. Common fields you'll see are cognitive science, social psychology, economics, political science, and even biology. An important thing in studying behavior science is a heuristic. There are many different types. Some are well known and others likely still to be discovered. They can be broad and applicable in many instances or specific to a single or a few use cases. A heuristic can be thought of as a tool or shortcut our minds take to simplify complex problems. Our brains do this to allow us to make faster decisions in a very complex world where we can't account for everything. However, because they are shortcuts, they don't account for everything possible, and that means that they can lead to incorrect conclusions or decisions. These are called cognitive biases, which are deviations from what is desirable or logically correct. Delving a little deeper, cognitive biases are errors in the way that we think about our problem. These are often due to the way our brains work or how we were educated. For example, our brains are very good at making decisions involving small numbers. We can easily imagine 1, 2, or 3 cereal brands, maybe even a few more, a few dozen. But what about 100 brands of cereal? 1,000? What if we needed to pick the healthiest cereal among 100 million cereals? Can you even picture that many cereal boxes to any degree of accuracy? When faced with a complex world, we use heuristics to simplify. But again, these can lead to cognitive biases. Because we take shortcuts, we're in danger of not picking the most desirable or the most logically correct outcome. Another note for any student of behavior science is that there are many to study, and often people fall into the bias trap. You start seeing biases everywhere, so check your own bias. Let's talk about some common heuristics and biases. First is the availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is where people make decisions or judgments based on how easily an example comes to mind, or how readily available a fact or memory of something is in your brain. For example, advertising for a type of drug by a pharmaceutical company actually leads people to think that the disease is much more common than it actually is. Doctors are even prone to fall into this trap. A doctor might be more likely to think a new patient might have the same illness that they just recently diagnosed someone else with. To review, the availability heuristic is where the ease of remembering an example makes you think it's more common or more important than it actually might be. It can be further influenced by how recent you were exposed to this or how frequently you were exposed to this information. Anyone can fall victim to this heuristic and cause availability bias. The biases for each heuristic are just the flip side of the same idea. This heuristic leads to bias because of the shortcuts our brain takes, such as recalling more recent information as more important information. For all the data scientists out there working on machine learning, think about how the availability heuristic applies to your models. Do you need to do a better job accounting for things that happen rarely? Or do you need to do a better job accounting for things that happened a long time ago because new information is more recent? Now let's take a look at some examples. Just plain old awareness advertising works through the availability heuristic. Signage at a basketball game can raise someone's recall of that ad, and if someone happens to be also at home thinking about getting home insurance, State Farm is there. Jingles are a tried and true way marketers leverage the availability heuristic. A catchy jingle will pop in your head when you're thinking about a related purchase. Frequency is another way to leverage the availability heuristic. The more we see something, the more likely we're going to remember it. Some brands might go all out on a massive frequency campaign. You can't miss it if you're everywhere. All of these are really just different types of priming, which is when exposure to something influences your response to that thing. Another type of priming is conceptual. For example, priming someone to think of fresh sliced tomatoes like this ad. Or associative. Here's an example billboard that not only associates the word hurt to injury lawsuits, but also doing it while you're driving, associating it to car accidents. Now let's look at another type of heuristic, anchoring. The anchoring heuristic is when we have some reference point that influences our decisions. Again, this is another type of priming, but anchoring relies on a point of reference that influences what initially comes to mind when making decisions. It's not just about being readily available from memory, it's an anchor point. For example, when a realtor shows you a series of houses, the first house people see tends to influence how they perceive all the rest of the houses that are going to be shown. Anchors are often used in marketing when there are multiple product choices or even multiple competitors, but we'll see that it can be used in other creative ways that are not directly based in product choice, but quantity. Prices are a common way of employing anchoring in a variety of ways. For example, priming a certain price at the starting reference point in negotiations can be powerful. Dilbert was on it in this cartoon by proposing $5 as his starting price. You'll see also this commonly with consumer software as service products. They will emphasize the subscription they want you to buy. It's something they'll anchor next to a cheaper option that sometimes might be such a bad value that it scares you into the next option. And they'll also anchor it by a much more expensive option that likely only a few people find at that price is valuable. Apple and other electronics companies do this with their products as well. Though with Apple, they're employing a number of different strategies nowadays. Apple is also using what in economics is called price discrimination. This is where you release what is basically more or less the same product from a manufacturing standpoint at different price points to capture as much of the price market as possible. Though they're still going to try to prime you towards the specific one that makes them the most amount of money. In this example, you'll see that fast food, they'll anchor a product, but in this case, the size of a medium soft drink will be priced slightly above the smallest option, but the smallest option is alarmingly small. So why not spend that extra 60 cents? Another creative way of anchoring is to anchor to a number. This example really wants you to think about the number 10, trying to entice the consumer to purchase 10 items for $10, even if you only want a few items. Depending on local laws, they might not actually be able to price these differently than the bundle of 10. So in that case, just buy as many as you need. Some parting questions. Where are your cognitive biases? Where have you made bad decisions due to heuristics? If you can better identify them in your own decision making, you can do a better job to harness their power. How can you better inform your consumer without being outright deceptive? Thank you for joining us for aUniversity.